So the first thing you do is you go to community, all right? You would have to click in search user Arnold, right? And then you would see my page here. Scroll down until you get OpenAI GPT and then click on the downloads, okay? You can do that right now if you want to, all right? So once you click on that, it should say download complete and stuff like that. And you go back as usual, click on your file explorer. You'll see my name somewhere here, okay? Click on that and then you'll see inside of that, you'll see OpenAI GPT. Now, of course, I can't do it because I'm using my own account, okay? And if you click at the OpenAI GPT, you will see these three files here. README, which tells you what to do. OpenAI is the actual cloud module itself, so don't fuss around with this. Install client is a way to create the OpenAI GPT connector for your own self. If you want to modify it and then share it with other people or for yourself, you can just run this install client and it will work for you, okay? But the interesting thing for most of us would be the examples folder. And there are 6 folders here, okay? So I've already got this, but you shouldn't show other people your secret key, okay? And let's try one of the examples here. So there's Eliza, all right? So just what you do is just copy. So let me do a simple one first. Let's do a simple test, okay? What is a chicken? Okay, so I've got the include here. So now in this case here, in this example number 1, we are not running this in the context of a chatbot. It's outside a chatbot, okay? So I only need a few things. I just need my include cloud module, which is Arnold/API/OpenAI. That's the first thing. And then, of course, you can put in the secret.m, which is the secret key, which I shouldn't have shown you guys just now. And then, of course, you can just use ask, all right, to ask OpenAI, sorry, GPT-3, what is a chicken? So let's just try running this and see what we get out of it. Okay, and I hope it comes back because oftentimes now it is very, yeah, okay, so it comes up with something, all right? And let me just open this up. So it says a chicken is a type of domestic bird, blah, 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 and so on, right? Now I can actually maybe wrap this up into a word so that it's maybe clearer to display. Right now it's like, you know, it's going on forever, right? If I want to wrap it up into a word, maybe I say ask GPT-3 query, and I won't display anything. So I'll just say something like ask it, and I'll bind into a context variable. The idea is that we are trying to answer, right? We're trying to just paste this in with some nice HTML formatting so it doesn't, you know, it doesn't really become too big, right? So this is how you would do it. And then of course I need to print this thing out. Okay, and I would say here, ask GPT-3. Oops, what's happening here? Is you have to get this to format it nicely so it doesn't, you know, run all over the shop, all right? And it doesn't like that because it doesn't know what the CTX bracket is. So for that, you need to also do another include called include quote. Okay, and that should work. All right. Now it takes a lot of time because usually now GPT-3 is, oh, it doesn't seem to work for the width. Maybe I'll set it to 100 pixels and let's give it another shot. It doesn't want to wrap at all. Okay, so you might want to, you know, find out what kind of CSS you want to use if you wrap this thing to make it wrap. Let's try max width. So I myself can never actually remember how to do this kind of stuff. There's just so many options. And normally what I do is I just Google and ask how to wrap stuff. But essentially the idea is that you can actually introduce, just instead of the raw text, you want to put in some formatting. Like let's say, for example, I'll change the color of the font. You can put color red, for example, right? And that would then change the color of the font that's displayed. Yeah. So the width should work. I'm not sure why it's not working. Maybe, yeah. With, let's say 50%. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Okay, it doesn't work. But anyway, my point is that you can actually introduce your own formatting that you want for the GPT responses. Yeah, that's a very simple example outside of a chatbot. Okay, and maybe you want to have more than one response. Let's say you can ask the GPT the same question twice, and it will give. But if you want more than one response, you just set the num responses word to 2. All right, so there are many of these functions on the GPT documentation. To recall the documentation, just like smojo/doc, doc, and then put doc Arnold. Now this username, if you publish your own API, that'll be your username /API/open-AI, right? Save that and then run that. So I don't have a save, just run it. So there are 5 words here. The main one is ask, which actually makes the prompt. Max tokens doesn't work very well. Model is only if you know what, let's say GPT, OpenAI come up with other models in the future. You can change the model they're using. Right now, it's set to Text DaVinci 003, which is GPT-3. Okay. Max responses is the maximum number of responses for GPT to return. The default is 1, and I would recommend you just stick with 1. But you can add more than one response by changing num responses. Okay. A secret key you already know. Okay. And let's move on. So I won't run this example because it's too simple. Let me try something that's more interesting, where we can move to something called prompt engineering. So instead of just asking the question as it is, okay, you can also get GPT to do some checking for you, for example. All right. So in this case here, what I've done, you can get GPT to also check whether something makes sense or not. All right. So what I mean is this: instead of transferring the prompt directly, right? So here, what is a chicken? Okay, I can check. Okay, so I'm running a check here before. In other words, I'm wrapping the what is a chicken question in some other text. Okay, using quotes. All right. So I've just wrapped this up. So I'm asking now GPT-3 a question. Is the sentence, what is a chicken, relevant to the topic of quantum mechanics? Well, obviously the answer is no. So you can answer yes, no, maybe, or not sure. Okay. Number 2, I can re-ask the question, what is spin? So spin is actually part of quantum mechanics. My background is in physics, by the way, so that's why I like quantum mechanics. It will give you another answer. And what is a wave function? Wave function is definitely part of quantum mechanics. So obviously you will say yes. So let's say running this example here and see what it says. Okay, so for the first question about chickens, is this chickens relevant to quantum mechanics? You'll say no. Right? Is spin relevant to quantum mechanics? You'll say not sure. Last of all, the wave function, you'll say yes. So this is a great way for you to check whether the questions that are being asked by a user make sense or not. Right? So for example, I could say, instead of quantum mechanics, I can change this to some other topic. Right? Let's say I say my own topic. Right? And then I can say my topic. Right, so they call this my topic, right? Or my subject. My dash subject. And so topic, I'll say this topic is a confusing word, subject. Okay. So here I can say, you can change, for example, to like how we did this now, mathematics maybe. Right. Right. So what this will do is it will then run the check whether it's relevant for mathematics. Right. So obviously chicken, not sure. And of course, it's not sure whether wave functions, because that's more wave functions, it can be physics, it can be math. So we'll say maybe, right? Let's try a different thing. How about we change this to, let's say, matrices, right? So it should say yes, right? So we'll say yes right towards the end, okay? All right, so you can, in other words, wrap up a user's query in this way. Now, you can do a lot more than just this kind of basic prompt engineering. You can do a lot of other stuff, like give it instructions, give it reasoning skills, etc. And you can run much longer queries based on what the user is trying to ask you, okay? Now, GPT is not perfect. Like here, for example, if I ask it, is 13 a prime number? Please explain. Right. If I run this, it will probably say, no, 13 is not a prime number, unless they've changed it, right? Yeah, see, in this case, it says 13 is not a prime number, which is a wrong answer, okay? So you can't completely, in fact, you can't rely on GPT-3 for a lot of stuff like this, like no, 13 is not a prime number is a whole number greater than 1. 13 can be divided by 1 and 13. And other numbers like what? Such as 3 and 4, right? So it thinks that 13 can be divided by 3 and 4. So my point is that GPT is not infallible. It's a language model, all right? So what it does well with is things like language, okay? So for example, let's say, so this kind of stuff, like factual stuff, it does very badly. So let me give you an example where it can be used quite well. And let's change this query here, this very simple query, to something that's more, let's say, for programming, okay? Let's say write function in C to reverse string, okay? If you run something like this, it will then, it's better at this kind of stuff, all right? Unless it dies on me, it doesn't seem to like it. Okay, it died. In other words, GPT was taking too long to respond. Okay, it could be because the server is full. It could be because my quota is done. It could be a lot of different things. I don't know. Okay, we'll try it one more time. I hope it doesn't die. Oh, it did it. Okay, fantastic. So this is a method that uses to reverse a string, okay, in C, which is great. Okay, so when it works like this, so it's good for this kind of stuff. All right, so programming is actually a wonderful tool to program. It may not give you the best kind of code, but it gives you fairly okay code. It can be used for, but it's very bad for factual data. It's bad for things like mathematical reasoning or any kind of reasoning that you want to have beyond the basic simple steps. Okay, but you can actually give it extra information in order to perform better. Okay. And that's where your input as a chatbot creator really helps, okay? Where you can inject this extra information that makes GPT a whole lot more useful, okay? Okay, there are some questions. Let me just see the questions on the chat. Please demo the maximum allowed questions per session. Okay, I will do this later on. I'm coming to that, okay? So let's look at handling IDKs. So this is a simple, like an extension of the relevance example. Let me just go back and just change my examples, right? I don't want this as an example here. Let's say, what is the chicken again? Okay. And relevance checking, I've already explained this to you already, but you can extend this with a simple, with a better example, like in your chatbots, that is. So here I've got a topic called mathematics, and it does the same thing, just checks and see whether the topic is relevant or not. Okay, and it's useful. You can actually put this into a chatbot and easily with a catch-all. So this is the catch-all here. The catch-all basically runs the topic. Is my topic relevant? Is the question relevant to the topic at hand? And if it's not, then you'll say, sorry, this isn't relevant. Otherwise, you will say, no, I don't have it in my database. And you can ask then GPT a question, okay? I won't go through this because it's fairly simple. You can download the copy code yourself. Okay, so Eddie asks, why is it that I asked ChatGPT via the browser is 13 a prime number and it gives the correct answer? And the answer to that is that the response for GPT, first answer is that the response for GPT is not stable. It's always changing depending on the time, and because there is a random element to it as well. But I'm guessing that the reason why it gives you the correct answer is because people are making a lot of improvements to ChatGPT. Okay, so the ChatGPT part, because it's a paid part, they're actually making a lot of improvements, and it's probably better at asking this kind of answers, giving this kind of answers. But I honestly wouldn't trust the answer at all. Okay, 13 is a very small number, but how about other numbers which are bigger, other prime numbers which are bigger, right? And the API could be an older, simpler, older model which doesn't have all the corrections and so on that they're layering on. So ChatGPT is not the same as GPT-3. Right, the model is the same, but ChatGPT has got some engineering layered over it to make the model more friendly, more usable, etc. So ChatGPT has a lot of support and work behind it, and the basis of it though is the same. It's still the GPT.